All right, welcome back to the channel, guys. gfunkyboxing. Gonna do a live prediction show tonight for the pay-per-view we got coming up this weekend. Errol the True Spence versus Yordenis Ugas. 3-belt unification on the line. Big fight at 147 pounds. We've been waiting for a big fight like this at 147 pounds for a really, really long time. And I'm being joined by a special guest tonight. My man, 97 Rough. Leave it in the ring. What's going on, bro?
What up, man? How you been? How's everybody been?
Good, man. Good to have you back on,
Yeah, man. Feels good to be back on, It's been a while. It's been a minute,
Yeah, for sure, man. But this is a really good fight here. Really looking forward to it. Real quick, Dave, give me your thoughts. Like what is your overall thoughts of the fight? And now that it's here, let us know what's on your mind about it.
My overall thoughts about the fight. Well, obviously, I mean, it's a good fight. It's something that's, needed. Two champions to get in there to find out who's the best of the best, right? That's what we all ask for and stuff. But overall, how I feel about it, honestly, I'm not too excited about it. I mean, it has to happen. It needs to happen. But is it one of those fights where I'm going to run over and give my good hard-earned money to? No, it really isn't. Unfortunately, I know some folks probably feel different than how I feel about it, but it's just, to me, this fight has recipe of being super, super boring.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with what you said about it being pay-per-view. This is definitely not a pay-per-view fight. Even though there's 3 belts on the line, this is not, my policy, man. I only want to see super fights on pay-per-view. Like if you're going to demand fans to pay for boxing, it's got to be a demand. There's got to be a demand there. And I'm sorry, there's no demand from the casuals, at least. Now, again, for the hardcores like us, we want to see champions fighting champions. But again, they're not huge names to make people pay $80 for this fight. No. I agree with you on that one.
Especially the undercard, too. I mean, the undercard's trash, man. I mean, are there going to be some fun fights? Yeah, because you have Shopworn Vargas, Josecito Lopez is going to, he's making his return, I guess, right? But I mean, in terms of when you look at, to me, 90s is the last really good decade of anything comes to hip hop, to rock music, to boxing, or just pretty much overall anything, right? And when I look at the welterweight division, I go, wow. I mean, Errol Spence and Ugas and even Crawford, any of these guys, are they going to be remembered 10, 20 years from now as a crop of great welterweights that were holding up to the pay-per-view standard? I hate to say no. I mean, even in the early 2000s, you had Pacquiao, Margarito, Cotto, Colati, even Floyd was still in the mix. All these other guys that were still giving us these ring robins of fights that were worthy. These ones here, they're just not anything really to get like my blood boiling and me to get super excited about. It's just not there. The whole division. I mean, even with like Thurman and now Danny Garcia's talking about 154, but like even the big fight that they're talking about with I mean, Spence said after this fight, Crawford is now on the radar, right? Hoping that's going to happen in 23. But I mean, even that fight, it's already been too much of a wait. I'm not too excited about it at all.
Yeah, I agree. You want to give a shout out to the guys in the chat. D-Style Boxing is here. SSC is here. Jesus M already dropping his prediction. He says he's got Spence via split decision. So he's anticipating a close fight,
right?
Which I think a lot of us are. My man Mark Nash is here as well. He says $80 this week, $70 next week. Canelo pay-per-view the next. Then Tank Davis, man, I can't afford to be a fan. Isn't it not ridiculous, man? Like this is the rob Peter to pay Paul mentality that boxing has right now.
Well, remember the whole DAZN slogan, pay-per-views dead.
Pay-per-view's dead. Yeah.
And then now they're
Yeah.
back in the pay-per-view mix, you know. It's like shit. Talking about putting
Yeah.
your foot in your mouth, right?
They jump on the train. That's right. My man, the boxing historian, is here as well. Guys, stick around. We're going to open up the phone lines after we give our predictions here. You guys can chime in. Let us know what you think, how the fight's going to go down. Make sure to hit the like button as well. Don't forget that. My man with my boxing historian here with his prediction, right? Which is Ugas by way of late stoppage. Man, that's a bold prediction, man. But hey, sometimes you got to make bold predictions, you know. It's
Right.
always fun making predictions because you know, it's just fun. You just never, we really don't know. Some fights we can kind of tell right away. Like,
Right.
yeah, I think this is what's going to happen. But in my opinion, I really think this is a toss-up fight for me, style-wise. Let's see. Hey, my man here from War Week Radio says boxing is viewed just like music by most fans, in which they preferred era is the best in their mind, and you can convince them otherwise. Yeah, it's one of those things, man. But I want to show the graphic again real quick. So the reason why I chose, you know, this to make it this way is because I want to. This is what we're gonna see Saturday night: Orthodox versus Southpaw. We got Errol Spence, volume puncher, very aggressive, works very well behind his jab. Uh, we can say almost the same thing for Ugas, except he's not doesn't throw as many punches. He's a counter puncher by nature, but he does work well behind his jab. Both guys come in behind a nice high guard. Both have good footwork, but use their footwork in different ways. So there's a lot of similarities between these two guys, and not only that, in my opinion, I think they both got two really good trainers, and Derek James for Spence and Ishmael Salas for Ugas, two really good trainers there that I really like. And look, I mean, Derek James has got two unified champions at 147 and 154. And we've seen what the turnaround that Ugas has had since he hooked up with Ishmael Salas. So these guys, you know, good coaches, good corners. I think the momentum, though, is inside of Ugas right now. He's hot. He's been winning fights. He just beat Manny Pacquiao. And Spence has been, you know, on the shelf a little bit. You know, he fought Danny Garcia at the end of 2020, and he looked good in that fight for coming off of that car crash he was involved in.
Right.
Then he's out for a whole nother year. He suffers an injury, has forced to pull out of the Pacquiao fight in the summer of 2021. Ugas steps in, wins that fight. And then now, you know, we got unification here, man. So I'm pumped up. So my man, Dave, 97 Rough, I'm rolling out the red carpet for you, man. Lay it on me, man. How do you see this one going, bro?
It honestly, look, just like everything you mentioned, you know, the styles are so similar. The way they stance, the footwork, even their jabs. Okay, one guy is going to want to take, be first in the dance with the jab. That's why I said it could be really boring. Because see, here's the thing, Spence wants it to be at a certain pace. If you notice when he fought like Porter. Even when Danny Garcia turned it up a bit, he kind of will get a bit wild, you know. He likes to fight at a certain pace. Ugas is also that guy. He likes to fight at a pace. You know, there's no rush to either one of these guys. In my opinion, for it to not to be a boring fight, one guy's going to have to be the aggressor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Salas, I've been to their gym. He's a great trainer, like you just mentioned. You know, he works with a lot of the Cubans, and he works with a lot of other guys. You know, you could teach a guy in the gym how to be aggressive, but if you're by nature not that guy, and you're content to not take the lead, to allow the guy to come forward and come at you so you can counter, it's hard for me to believe that he's going to come out of character. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because you had an old man in front of you in Manny Pacquiao, where we saw with Manny, you know, he couldn't get all his punches together. He wasn't as aggressive. And any time I felt like Spence, I mean, Ugas, if he just turned it up just a little bit more, he might have gotten a knockdown, or he might have gotten, beat up Pacquiao a little more, you know, to show that there was evidence that Ugas was in the fight. right? But he cruised it. He played it safe. So with me, my thing is, Ugas, do you want to play it safe going against Spence, who is okay with playing it safe? And in my opinion, the judges are going to score it for Spence. He's the house fighter. That's the kind of fight that Spence is in. That's the kind of fight that Spence likes. So I think it just comes down to if Ugas decides to turn up or stay okay doing a slow dance with Spence, which is more of a Spence fight. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're hoping for. Okay. They're not looking for a Crawford. Crawford, to me, would jump all over Spence. He would make Spence, he would force, Spence to fight. I'm not sure if Ugas would force Spence to fight. And if you got to come down the line, who's the better boxer of the two? Man, I got to go with Spence. I think Spence has the better jab, the better footwork. He's more comfortable. He's a big guy. He knows how to pick his shots. When he zeroes down on those shots. Ugas does good too, but he's just a little bit below Spence, in my opinion, when it comes to that boxing IQ.
All right. We got some good comments here as well. Talking about some odds here. Said, G-Funky, did you realize that the odds for a draw are now down to plus 1,600 when it was over plus 2,000 a week ago on most sports books? Wow, people really dropping some money on a draw. Man, that's a big dip right there. Let's see. Boxing Historian says, I predict Ugas is going to get off first in the first couple of rounds. Spence is a slow starter in the first couple of rounds. Yeah, I can kind of see that happening. Don't forget
Ugas started all the rounds.
Don't forget Ugas stopped throwing his right hand with conviction after the fourth round, fifth round because of a bicep tear going into the pack fight. Yeah, I think I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous when that fight went 12. I had Ugas. I scored that fight. I had him winning comfortably against Pacquiao. It was just a matter of him getting the decision, And I hate to bring this up, but this is something that we have to bring up when we talk about boxing. We see bad scorecards, we see bad judging, and more often than not, we see judges favor guys that are aggressive, that come forward like a Manny Pacquiao, especially against a counterpuncher. We see them have 3 fights with Marquez that were all close, and Marquez didn't get one decision. He had to knock the guy out to win a fight with Manny Pacquiao. Bruce Gass in the house, man, my man right there. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Good channel there. So yeah, that's something that I hate to bring up, but we have to. We almost have to here. And we know that there's money. Now look, here's the thing. PBC's got both Ugas and Spence, right? So either way, if they get that Crawford fight next, which I hope, because I want to see Undisputed, they can look, both guys are with PBC, so they're both gonna make money. But we obviously know that the more casual interest is with a Spence versus Crawford, right? And plus, like you said, fighting in his hometown, Texas, historically has bad judging. Now, does it always
everything?
Yeah. Does it always work out that way? Not all the time. Sometimes we see guys get, a decision in a quote unquote another guy's backyard. Like we just seen last year, Josh Taylor got a decision against Jose Ramirez in what was a pretty competitive fight, but I felt Josh Taylor won it, but there was, hey, he was in his Ramirez's backyard. We just seen also late last year, Usyk got a decision in Joshua's hometown in a fight that I honestly felt like he was going to get robbed there too, but he gets the decision. And, we got to give these guys some credit when they get it done. Let's give the judges a hand when they get things right, no matter where they're at. Okay. But we can't rule that out in any prediction. But I'll just say this, this matchup here is a classic, volume guy versus a counterpuncher. And for me, I always favor the counterpuncher in these type of matchups. Because I feel like now we all know this in boxing. There's a counter to every punch, to every move that you make in there. It's just a matter of capitalizing on it. And counterpunchers, that's what they're designed to do, to capitalize on mistakes, look for openings to counter their opponents, And Errol, is a guy who gives his opponents plenty of opportunity to do that. But I'll say this with Earl. I like his jab. I agree with what you said. He's got one of the best jabs in boxing. Now, it's not a flashy jab. It's not like a fast jab or anything like that. But
Right.
he knows how to land it when he wants to land it. He knows how to disrupt rhythm of his opponents. And he knows how to set up his punches behind it very, very well. Same with Ugas. We saw that with Pacquiao. We saw that with Porter. Really good behind the jab. Footwork, I think both guys are very well balanced. They both keep their feet planted very well. They're not going to be guys that move around the ring. Now I'm going to put that narrative to bed right now, because the Cuban fighters always get this reputation of guys who quote unquote run, when they fight. Well, I don't see Ugas ever do that. I don't know about you, Dave. I don't ever see him quote unquote running. He doesn't do that.
No, he's pretty.
Move.
Yeah, he's pretty collective. He's pretty collective when you put pressure on him. He doesn't lose his cool. He doesn't get out of rhythm. It's the opposite. When he sees a hurt, he sees a hurt opponent, we haven't seen him come out with those lion jaws to jump on that person. And with Spence, the car crash, the reconstruction of the jaw, the teeth, etc. Danny never gave us the answer. Does his face hold up? Is Ugas going to give us the answer? Can Spence hold up to some right hands? Is he going to hold up to some left hooks? We don't know that yet. And that's what I mean. That's why I'm wondering, does he come out of character for once? Because, Ugas is going to win rounds. Maybe even early rounds, because Spence is such a slow starter. But will he be consistent?
Yeah.
Or does he fade off? Because the thing, what I've seen with Ugas is that once he gets at a comfortable stage, he sticks with it. He doesn't go out of that stage. He stays right there, and he's like, okay, I got it. I'm good here. I'll just, boom, pity pat here, throw this one shot at a time, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, look, if you take those first 4 or 5 rounds, do you press on the gas a little bit more, or you allow Spence to get back in the fight, because Spence is going to get back in the fight.
Yeah.
And you know that if Spence is losing those rounds, his corner is going to be jumping up and down, telling him, hey, you got to do a little bit more, which I think I have more confidence in Spence picking it up a little bit more than I do with Ugas, I mean, I think Ugas has the package to beat him. I just don't know if he has the temperament to beat him.
Good point. And a few people pointed that out. I even seen a video with Joel Casamayor, great Cuban fighter from the past, who even said that. He said, look, Ugas got the tools to do it, but he's just got to be more aggressive to do it, And I'm glad that you brought up Danny, because a lot of people like to compare Ugas to this guy right here.
Never been a lame-o, never been a lame-o.
Wow. That caught me off guard.
the classic Latin Goonies there by Danny Garcia.
Poor Danny.
I think Ugas is a much better fighter than Danny Garcia is, especially at 147 pounds.
Skill-wise, yeah. I mean, look, Danny was a great boxer at he was a skilled boxer at 140, outboxed clearly Matisse, but Matisse wasn't a boxer at all. I mean, Matisse had very limited skills. He's had a big punch. But Danny, in the past, we saw that he had boxing skills. He was on his bicycle, and it's just that the more weight he got, the more he sat in his punches. After knocking out Amir Khan, he fell in love with that right hand, and that was the end of the story there. That's all he would write, for his checks and stuff. But yeah, Ugas, no, there's no. I mean, Ugas is he's pretty much a complete package in terms of a boxer,
Yeah, I agree. Logic here is asking the question: has Spence ever faced a Cuban style fighter? Spence adapts well in fights, but curious on will he fight with Ugas? Cuban fighters are more conservative with their punches. Yeah, well, I mean, they come from the Cuban school of boxing, which is one of the best amateur programs in the world. Those guys, they win a ton of gold medals, they win a ton of tournaments, Pan Am games, world championships, all that stuff. So they train their guys to land punches cleanly so that the judges in the amateur system see them. Boom, nice and clean. They landed. This way, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it because amateur boxing is scored different from professional boxing. So,
Right.
yes, I agree with that comment. But with Ugas, I would say he's a little more aggressive and more stationary than most Cuban fighters that come here, or the Cuban fighters that a lot of boxing fans complain about, I should say. You know, he
Right.
does slide in and out very well while keeping balance, and he does pivot very well also. And here's another key for Ugas, especially coming out of that Cuban school. There is nothing but southpaws on that island. Let me tell you.
Right.
There's southpaws everywhere you look on that island. So he's got a lot of experience against southpaws. We know that the southpaw advantage is a real thing in boxing. And if you don't have experience against a southpaw, that could really come back to haunt you. But this guy's got a ton of experience against
They
southpaws.
both got experience against, like, the question with these, has Spence ever faced a Cuban style? Yeah, I mean, his amateur background says it all. You don't get through the amateur rankings without facing a few Cuban style fighters from that island. But I like you said, I don't really see Ugas as a Cuban style fighter. He does sit on those punches a little bit more, which most Cubans don't turn over their punches. They go off of that point system like you just mentioned. It's a pity pat and step away. I always give credit to Casamayor. I remember having him on, and I gave him credit about that, saying that, I like when Gamboa burst into the scene, right? I was saying this, Gamboa having that aggressive style, does it, do you feel like it contributed how you came out? I mean, Casamayor was an aggressive guy. Was he successful with that aggression? Sometimes, and sometimes he wasn't. And when I was at the Silas gym, I speaking to those guys, they have all said, every one of them that was working with Cuban fighters, saying that they're breaking that mold. Even in Cuba, the school in Cuba are now breaking that mold because they see that when these guys go pro, they're not the same. They're not getting that respect. So I know that that's something that's kind of, being drilled into these fighters now to fight a little bit different, but in Ugas's case, yeah, he doesn't fight completely like a Cuban, but he fights like a Cuban.
Yeah.
And that's that temperament that I'm talking about. There's not that urgency. We want our fighters to have that 1, 2, 3rd gear, an emergency button to hit. And I have yet seen them have that emergency button the way I've seen like Casamayor or even Gamboa have that emergency button to try to get their guy out of there. Ugas has got a big order, to eat up here in front of him with Errol Spence. And he's going to really need that emergency button in those late rounds. Because I don't want to see a chess match. I don't think anybody wants to pay for us. And realistically, this is a pay-per-view fight because you got 2 undefeated guys with titles, 3 titles on the line. Okay, I'll give you that. But nobody wants to watch a chess match on pay-per-view. We want to see checkers. We want to see something fast, explosive, and something that gives us our money worth, especially when the undercard is trash. The undercard's not very good.
Yeah. Bad undercard for sure. Let's see here. I want to address a few comments. Warwick says Ugas is a jack of all trades, but a master of none. You'll see both men make multiple tactical adjustments throughout 12 rounds chess match. I think that's probably what's going to happen as well. Hey, my man D-Lo is here. What's going on, bro? Thanks for stopping by. Again, guys, I'm going to open up the phone lines here in just a few minutes after I give you my prediction. Toby's in the house. What's going on? Jesus M says Casamayor better than Ugas. Well, Ugas, his career's still going. Let's see what happens. I mean, if he beats Errol Spence, I mean, that's a big win for him. He's going to be a 3-belt champion. That's a big win for him. Let's see here. Gamboa was special in his own right. When he first came over, he was phenomenal. Ciclone was, he was something. Amateurs are about points. Professionals are about selling tickets, with the exception of Gamboa and most of recently Morel. Cubans don't sell tickets. Yeah, that's the thing, man. I feel like they're marketed a little bit bad, but Joe Lopez is here. Okay, guys, let me go give me my pick so I can open up the phone lines. We could talk to some of you guys. I feel like this is going to be another one of those classic aggressive volume guys versus a counterpuncher type of fight, and we're going to be having fans yelling and screaming at each other about who won the fight. You know, we're going to have a lot of close rounds because we're going to have one guy who's throwing more punches, which is going to be Spence. And then we're going to have another guy who's going to be probably landing the more clean, eye-catching shots with Ugas. And it's going to be one of those things where, and this is the way, I hate saying this, but a lot of boxing fans says, well, I like this better or I like that better. You know, I think that's what we're going to have a lot. Now, Spence, again, he works really well behind that jab. And man, it's tough. This is a tough fight to pick. But you know what? I didn't want to include this in my Danny Garcia prediction, but we have to take into account now all the drama and all the things that Spence has been involved in outside of the ring. Multiple car accidents, a retina surgery, ring rust. You know, now he didn't look so rusty against Danny, but he's older now. You know, he's a little bit older, and he's been out of the ring a long time again. So it's a tough one, man. It's going to be a really, really tough fight. I always tend to favor the counterpuncher in these matchups. And I feel like the experience of Ugas against Southpaws on that island, he's really crafty. He likes to get on that outside lead foot to get that angle for those right hands. And he's got a terrific right hand. And that's the thing with that eye. If that eye is not all the way healed and he starts to land that right hand, who knows if Spence's eye blows up somewhere in the, mid part of the fight and could give him some trouble. We just don't know. It's a close fight. My gut's telling me Ugas. But it's a close fight. It's a close fight.
I'm going to go with.
I'm officially going to go with Ugas. Go ahead, brother.
I'm going to go with Spence on a ugly win, a very controversial win. Because I think like everybody here can agree, it's going to be a chess match. It's going to be who established their jab first, who takes control with that jab. But it's going to be such a back and forth of ring generalship between the two, because we have to admit both men both command their ring generalship very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on me in those late rounds who decides to put just maybe a little tap on that gas to see what what to do. But I'm going to go with Spence on an ugly decision and honestly not the most convincing win over Ugas. It might end up being another thing where people could say, hey, well, I thought Ugas clearly beat Porter, where everybody's going to be like, I thought, Ugas beat Spence the way many of us felt Porter beat Spence, but it's not going to be as convincing as the way Porter, in my opinion, should have got the win over Spence. But like I said, I think that Spence pulls it off, but it's not going to be pretty and it's not going to be convincing.
It's going to be one of those fights, man. I agree that fans are going to be arguing about for years and years to come. Guys, phone line is open now. You see it on the screen, 916-572-1020. If you want to call in and talk with G-Funk and 97 Rough, give us your picks. If you agree, disagree with me, Dave, whoever, it's all good, man. We'll keep it boxing, and we'll keep this good boxing talk going on here for about another 30 minutes or so. I appreciate all you guys being here. I know it's late. It's late for us. We're a couple of West Coast Chicanos. It's late for us. I know it's late for some of you guys who aren't on the West Coast, but I definitely appreciate you stopping by. And don't forget to hit that like button for me, all right? William Boxing here says, I got Ugas. And we got our first call of the night. Give me 1 second to get the caller on. All right, my man, 206, you're live.
Was good, G-Funky. Was good, 97 Ralph.
What's going on, brother?
What's happening, man? What's on your mind, bro?
Man, well, this fight. and whether I should pick Ugas in a unanimous decision or bet on him stopping him in the late round. And the reason why I'm saying this is because when I look at dealing with this fight and dealing with Errol Spence and what he's been through the last couple of years, him, that situation with the car accident, and of course, going through what he's gone through. He's been out the ring for a while. That retina tear. I mean, I think it's a lot of hyperbole with he looks good. He looks good in sparring. He looks good in workouts. Well, you know what? He probably gonna look good in sparring because they're probably gonna tell him not to go that fucking hard on him. You understand?
Right.
Good point. Yeah.
I mean, and of course he's gonna look good because they're gonna be brought in not to fucking damage him, so he's not able to pull out this next fight. Like he had to pull out, pull out the fight with Pacquiao. Ugas is coming off a win. You got to understand, Ugas is just coming off a win against and retiring a legend. That builds up confidence.
He's got momentum on his side. That's for sure. More, right. I mean, again, Spence has been out of the ring for the whole entire 2021, and now 4 months in 2022. He's been out of the ring a long time, so he's got rust to shake off while the other guy's been in shape, been in the gym, and getting big wins, man. That's a good point.
And it's been you can get away with this against a lesser opponent, but you can't get away with this with another guy that's not only a top dude, but he's a champion in that division. He just beat Pacquiao just a couple months ago. So, that ring rust is going to play a factor, especially when you're getting hit for real. And I just see, so how the fight's going to play out to me, I think that with Ugas, he is a good counter puncher. He does have a solid jab. Now, I think Errol Spence has the better jab. He's a better puncher. Yeah. But one thing I've noticed about Errol Spence over the years is that when he does go to the body, which he's one of the best body punchers, maybe the best body puncher, whether you put him or Canelo or whoever else in that category, he does not protect himself very well when he goes to the body. And it's not saying that he has horrible head movement or anything like that.
He gets a little front foot heavy, I think, when he goes downstairs. I kind of see that a little bit with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I knew that he was going to have issues with Porter.
Oh yeah,
just because of that. And of course, Porter's a entirely different style, entirely different fighter. He's a volume puncher. He's a reckless brawler, pretty much. But the thing is, though, if Ugas mixes in a little bit more aggression, because we've seen over the first 4 rounds for majority of the top level fights of his career, speaking of Errol Spence, he's a slow starter. And if Ugas does, counterpunch a little bit, but gets off the jab, I mean, you're and of course, and you brought up, the man has faced several, many different
southpaws, yeah,
southpaws over there in Cuba. Here's the difference between them and Errol Spence. All right, and from the yin and the yang aspect, every southpaw from fucking Cuba, every southpaw that I've seen, majority of the time, like in Cuba, they're slick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Errol Spence is a come forward fighter. He can box, he can move, his footwork's good, but he's not slick in terms of his head movement or him being able to catch and shoot with punches, parry punches off his guard like that. And I think that if Ugas in the pocket, not exchange with him, but box him, with the jab, and lands the right hand, because the right hand, that's the equalizer against a southpaw, is that right hand, and he gets off first. I think the first 4 rounds could be 3-1 or even possibly 4-0 Ugas, and depending on how good Errol Spence punch resistance is, he might have a sense of urgency, to come in, and he might win maybe some of the middle rounds. But I do think that jab and that right hand is going to land very effective against Errol Spence, and he's probably going to be a little bit reluctant to throw punches to the body as aggressive as he's done in the past, even against someone like Garcia, who he himself, he's not really all that good of a boxer. He's not really, and he was a slow, flat-footed guy that really couldn't show if that dude had any punch resistance at all. You understand?
Yeah.
I mean, most of a degree. And Ugas is a much better boxer, much more polished boxer than Garcia. So I can see it being close, but I do think that retina tear, you don't just come back from that shit. I don't care what the hell they say or what kind of treatment you don't get back. You just don't come back from something like that.
It's a tough injury for sure, man, because we've seen guys like, I mean, who's the most famous guy with a retina injury? That's Sugar Ray Leonard. And ever since he got that eye injury, he always had an issue with that same eye puffing up in a lot of his fights. Dave, you want to touch on anything here before we let the boxing historian go?
Yeah, no, I everything you said, bro. It's some great points. You know, with Ugas, my only, like I said, I go back with my concern with him is that the thing with Ugas is that I could see him shelling up because he did it against Pacquiao. You know, when you're throwing punches, he sometimes tends to just shell up and start, you know, parrying a lot of shots and not making any returns. He threw a lot of rounds away where he could have capitalized, and we've seen him do that prior to that. You know, I think with Pacquiao was with Ugas, he was able to see the shots coming at him because even though Pacquiao's got his speed, it was in spurts. It wasn't consistent, you know, and they weren't really, you know, Manny was not a really crazy big puncher in the welterweight division. You know, it was the way the guys were set up for him to knock him down. Where Spence, I could say he's got that 154 power as what a welterweight, you know, squeezed into this 154-pound fighter. I think that punching power of Spence is going to be a little more for Ugas, and I think that may shell him up a bit, you know. And I go back with putting the gas on the pedal. He's going to need to do that. He's going to have to try to get out of character against Spence to get those rounds, to win those convincing last 30 to 15, 10 seconds down the pipe and stuff, you know. That's where my concern is at. But like I said, I don't think Spence, though, is going to give us too much either that's convincing enough to say, this is my fight. I own this guy. I really think we were going to walk away with a chess match where we were like, man, it should have been 15 rounds, not 12 rounds, or even at 15 rounds, we still didn't get enough. We still weren't convinced who really truly was the winner, the clear winner between the two.
It's got that old school 15-round feel to it. As soon as you said that, I was like, it really does have that feel, man. So 206, man. Give me your official pick, brother, before I let you go. I want an official. I know you said stoppage, Ugas. Are you sticking with that, or are you going to just take him to win decision?
Go with the stoppage, brother, and put the money down. Put it down, man. With some money.
Hey, if you hit that, bro, oh my God, you're absolutely hot.
Because it can't happen. That's the thing. I mean, Ugas could pull it off, man, to do that, but you know, you never know. It's boxing, man. That's why we watch.
Yeah, right, I mean, it's not a punch, and it's not like he's a punch. It's not like he's a puncher, but accumulation of punches can stop anybody. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
You know what? I'm gonna have to. Nobody else is gonna pick this, so you know what? I'm gonna have to just go on a limb here. Ugas, it's gonna be competitive. It's gonna be close, but I think he's gonna balloon up the dude's eye, and it's gonna be a stoppage between the 9th or 11th round. It doesn't even go. It is 12th round.
All right. Yeah. Well, we got ourselves a bold prediction there, but I like it. Man. 206, boxing historian. Thanks for calling in, man. We appreciate you, man.
You know, there's a strong possibility it could happen. You know, for 206, I'm going to back him up on what he's saying because the big question, like I said, Spence's face, can it hold up? Not necessarily a stoppage because the punching power, but the accumulation of punches being landed. Yeah, that his corner steps in and says he can't see out of that eye anymore. Can't see the punches anymore. So they got to be merciful and stop this fight. So that's why I'm like, yeah, that could happen. Could definitely happen.
Yeah, that's a good point that he made. 210. Again, guys, I can only take one call at a time. So 210, if you want to call back, the line is open now. I'm gonna go ahead and read some of these comments here because you guys are, man, putting up some good stuff here, man. Voltex here says if Ugas wins, people are gonna be on suicide watch. The fight doctor in the house, he says Ugas is a live dog. Now I think he is a live dog too.
Right.
D'Lo saying Abner Mares still has to come back. Yeah, he had a serious eye injury and he's still on the sidelines, and I don't think he's coming back. Fight doctor says Ugas is a minus 550. Wow, unbelievable. That's crazy. Yeah, might as well drop something on it. You never know. We got another call coming in, guys. Give me 1 second.
You never know.
All right, 210. You are live.
Hey, what's up, brother? G Funky, 97 Rough. How you guys doing? It's Joseph Aaron, man.
What's going on, bro?
brother?
Oh, man, enjoying the show, man. Very, very good insight, man. Like the contrasting opinions and all very good points, man. I love it. But just a correction on the odds. In most race and sports books, Yordenis Ugas at this time is actually shrunk below the plus 300. In most race and sports books, he's sitting at a very live plus 275.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, just, yeah, look up the books, guys. I mean, and so this is actually becoming a very, very competitive fight according to most handicappers, which, you know, let's just face it, guys. Most fans, most bettors, they already knew this was going to be a competitive fight, right?
Yeah.
Because, and especially there's so many intangibles that we won't know until we see both men in the ring, like Spence's eye, ring rust, inactivity. Yeah, there's several things that we're not going to know until we see both men in the ring. I will say this, though. If Errol Spence is still EJ, if he is the Errol Spence, if he's still the truth, guys, this is going to be a very convincing victory for Errol Spence Jr. Okay, you guys talk about, I've heard, and the boxing historian, very seldom do I disagree with boxing historian. He's my dude, man. I love that guy. I love his show. He's awesome, man. He's such a smart guy, and he's a prize fighter. He knows what he's looking at in the ring. But, guys, come on, man. Yordenis Ugas is going to have no choice but to take the lead in this fight.
He has to take the lead in this fight.
Because Errol Spence Jr. has the counterpuncher neutralizer, which is that beautiful, intelligent jab of his.
Beautiful jab.
I mean, guys, he put Danny Garcia in checkmate after round 2. He put Mikey Garcia in checkmate after round 3. I mean, this is so.
Yeah.
Yordenis Ugas, and you know what? Credit to Ismael Salas. He's become so much more proficient than he was. Like, you remember Yordenis Ugas 3-4 years ago?
Oh no,
he was a typical Cuban fighter. He was a cutie pie, a guy who just stayed from mid to long range and who was a slick counterpuncher. But you know, he didn't look very good. And then after working with Ismael Salas, you see him now. His footwork has dramatically improved.
Oh, yes.
His jab is so much better. His lead right hand, that one that he slips over the top, is so much better. This is a guy who now can get off first. And his body attack when he does is very impressive. So he's become a more complete fighter since training with Ismael Salas. And it's been very impressive fight after fight after fight, watching his improvements. But here's the problem when you're facing EJ. Okay, so if you decide to sit back from mid to long range and try to counter, okay, he's going to disrupt your timing and rhythm, like G Funky stated in the outset of the show, because of that beautiful, intelligent jab, excuse me, in which he incorporates feints, touch jabs, hard stabbing jabs to the body and head, and he mixes it up, and he uses disjunct timing, right? He's got one of the best jabs in boxing. Okay, so when you take the lead, now you're jumping into his wheelhouse. You mean to tell me, do you really think Yordenis Ugas is going to have any success fighting EJ in the pocket? That's his bread and butter. So if EJ is still the truth, the guy who beat up Kell Brook, the guy who beat Sean Porter convincingly, because Larry Hazard doesn't know how to score a fight any longer. He needs to be put out to pasture. The two competent judges had it scored correctly at 8-4. I'm sorry, guys, but that wasn't a very hard fight to score. That was a convincing Errol Spence Jr. victory. Okay, if this is the same guy, right, and in my opinion, when you look and hear him talk, and once again, I do a show with Ronnie Shields every week. Emmanuel Aleem is one of Spence's chief sparring partners. Okay, he told us, right? He told Ronnie and I that this is the sharpest he's ever seen Errol Spence Jr. Okay, so if the truth is still the truth, guys, don't be shocked if Errol Spence Jr. walks away with a convincing 9-3 or 8-4 decision. Because, look, at this level, knockouts are very difficult to come by. Look at Errol Spence's knockout ratio since he started competing at the elite at 147. Not going to happen. But, guys, if I'm going to bet, right, I'm going to bet a clear Errol Spence Jr. decision hedged by a draw because those odds are just too awesome. A plus 1,600, right? So that's how I'm going to do it. But in no way, shape, or form, okay, is Yordenis Ugas going to win this fight. As long as Errol Spence Jr. is still Errol Spence Jr.
That's a good point. Go ahead, Dave.
He's got some good points. My only issue is this. Just like we saw this past Saturday, Ryan Garcia's comeback, right? The old saying in boxing is this: if a guy doesn't want to get knocked out, it's hard to knock him out when they're on their bicycle. Styles make matches, and this pay-per-view, these guys are too similar. One guy's got to take the lead, like you mentioned a little earlier, which would have to be Ugas. But what if he decides not to? Now you have both guys now standing out on the outside, just touching toes and waiting for one guy to throw a punch. That's why I mean that it might not be that convincing, because one guy's going to have to get out of character. One guy's going to have to get out of pocket to try to win some of those 30 seconds of 3 minutes of those rounds, and I just don't see that. I could see that happening where both guys are still trying to find out, still trying to convince themselves, hey, should I take lead? No, you take lead. Should I go for it? No, you stay back, And if Ugas decides to fight, because in my opinion, I don't know what you guys think, but this is a Spence fight. If you decide to try to counter and fight at a certain pace, Spence wants that. Spence wants it to be boring because that's where he tees off. That's where he gets some of his best momentums, and his best work comes off of being patient and relaxing. It's when you got to get Spence on his toes. It's when you got to make Spence start to think too fast. Anytime you get a guy that's intelligent in the ring, you want to bum rush him. It doesn't give him time to think. It just makes him react, and that's when it creates openings for you because they made a mistake. Can Ugas do that? Does he have a temperament outside of what we've seen because he's so similar to Spence? That's my question.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said about look, if none of this stuff happened to Spence, if he's never been in multiple accidents, doesn't have the eye injury, I would pick him to win for sure. Definitely. But I can't rule that out. And the fact that Ugas has such a good right hand, there is a possibility we could see that eye balloon up, and maybe even early. The earlier, the worse, and the earlier, the better for Ugas, and the earlier, the worse for Spence. But we'll find out, man. We will definitely find out. I'm really excited for this fight. Hey, man, I appreciate the call. I want you guys to subscribe to War Week Radio Network here on YouTube. Good channel. He has a bunch of like I say, he does a show with Ronnie Shields. He's had multiple fighters on and a lot of good stuff over there, man. So I appreciate the phone call, brother.
He had Spence, right?
Yeah, he had Spence.
I'm sorry, what?
You picked Spence, right? Official pick.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah. God bless you guys. It's been a pleasure sharing the air with you. But hey, let's talk about this after the fight, guys.
Oh, hey.
Right? Because once again, there are no right or wrong answers until they both step in the ring, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And I do a post-fight call-in show after all the big fights, and I will definitely be live as soon as this one is all in the books. So feel free to come back and call in, brother.
Well, I'm going to be joining you, my friend.
All right. I'll be right here waiting for your phone call.
God bless you guys. Love the show, man. You guys do a great job. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Good phone call there, man. Again, guys, the line is open. 916-572-1020. We got about another 10 to 15 minutes here, and then we'll wrap this one up. Really good input from the chat. Really good phone calls, guys. This is great stuff. Let's see. Fotex here says Spence went life and death with Porter till that knockdown happened. That knockdown won him the fight. Yeah, I disagree with him a little bit. I felt like that was a close fight.
Really
But
close.
there's a lot of people that think Spence won it clearly. I think there was a lot of close rounds in that fight, and it just depends on, again, what you like,
Yeah,
and
what you're looking for. Mm-hmm.
mhm. Uh, let's see here. D Style says, "Oh, we got another phone call here. Give me 1 second, guys." All right, we got 706. You are live.
What's good, G Funky? This D-Lo.
D-Lo, what's good, brother? Thanks for calling in, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me, man. I just want to chop it up a little bit about this fight.
All right, what's on your mind, man?
I don't want to make my official prediction because I plan on doing that tomorrow or either Saturday morning on my channel. But I do want to talk about it, but break it down just a little bit.
Absolutely.
The one thing I will say is, like you say, you can't discount all the circumstances going into the fight. You can't discount Ugas being the most active of all the top welterweights. You can't discount Spence being one of the most inactive right now. You can't discount the injuries, the accident, the starts and stops, as far as him getting all the way to the point where he was weeks away from a Pacquiao fight, and then the disappointment of having that snatched away from him. So there's a lot of that stuff, regardless of how we look at the two individuals. None of that stuff can be just dismissed. I mean, it's all a part of it, As for me, I respect the fact that when nobody wanted to fight Errol Spence Jr., I'm talking about back before he got the Mikey fight, because that's when everything changed for Errol as far as getting fights. Ugas was one of the guys wanting to fight Errol Spence Jr. Ugas was trying to get that fight before Ocampo fought Errol.
Yeah.
So that's how far back he goes to trying to fight Spence. He put himself in position where he was one fight away from a Spence fight against Porter. I felt like he went out there and beat Porter, but, he didn't get the decision. So there was another opportunity where he was denied the opportunity to fight Errol Spence Jr. I'm hearing a lot of people saying that he doesn't seem motivated and he just seemed happy to be there. I see Ugas conducting himself as he usually does.
As a fighter.
I think he's I mean, even outside, like I hear people criticizing him for being at fights and, he needs to be preparing for the fight. I was like, no, I mean, this is what this guy does. He supports the sport. He goes out and he supports the other fights. He shows up at events. He's the type of fighter I like, the ones that actually care about the sport of boxing. Nothing irks me more than to hear these fighters say, I don't really follow boxing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm serious, man. We hear it, far too frequently. You know what I'm saying? So I think all of that is a part of who this man is. I just think that as far as from a stylistic standpoint, both guys do a lot of the same things, similar things, from a different stance. Both good body punchers. I think both guys counter well. I think from an activity standpoint, of course, Errol Spence is he's more of a volume puncher, while Ugas is the more patient, pick his shots, but make sure they count type of guy. I think Ugas has more power than a lot of people give him credit for. Errol isn't knocking guys out of their socks either, so I just feel like from a matchup standpoint, I think these guys are very even. And I would feel that way before the accident. You know what I'm saying? Of course, before Errol fought Mikey, I haven't had as much of a sample size to see of Ugas. But having seen what I've seen since then and what I saw before then, I felt like the guy was always going to be a good matchup for Errol. Now, but we can't discount the circumstances. You know what it is? He's getting a guy that's, that shows up on fight night. You can't help that. Just like you can't help who other guys have already fought and lost to or beat or whatever. That's just, they just come with it, par for the course. So, for me, I just feel like, with everything that is going into it, I think we're in for a great fight. I feel like stylistically, these guys should mesh well. I don't think we're going to be in for a snooze fest. I think it may be a filling out process for a couple rounds. But I feel like as it pertains to who's going to take the lead or who should take the lead, I feel like Errol, being the guy with the most uncertainty coming in, is probably going to be the one who tries to take the lead because he has to prove something to himself right away. You know, I know people can say, well, Ugas has to prove to himself that he belongs in Errol, but I think Ugas already believes that. But I think Errol has to prove to himself that he's you know what I'm saying, in the shape to fight, and that he can actually get through round 1, round 2, round 3, you know, because actual fight is a Spartan. You know what I'm saying? And it's a different story. So this guy's not in there just working on certain things. This guy's in there to win the fight, and he's in there to take his head off. So I think, you know, for Errol, he's going to have to go in there and establish his jab right away. He's going to have to take the lead. He has the crowd behind him. The more he does, the louder they're going to get. Yeah. And I think he's going to be the one to take the lead, and Ugas is going to be in a position where he has to try to take the play away from him consistently. He has to quiet the crowd. He has to win over the judges. You know, the odds are stacked against him with everything going on. But at the end of the day, I feel like he's up for it, and I don't feel like the moment's too big for him. I mean, anybody who could take a Pacquiao fight on short notice and show up the way he did, I don't think this moment's going to be too big for him. But I just think we're in for a great fight. I'm not ready to call a winner. I will say that I've been saying ever since the fight was announced that I favor Errol. But a lot of things have been said, and a lot of things have come out over since the fight has been made. So I feel like it's best to wait until the absolute last minute to really make your prediction, because, you know, you don't, once you make it, you know what I'm saying, an official prediction, you don't want to be like, oh, well, you know, such and such got a hangnail, I want to change my prediction. You know,
yeah.
So that's why I am with it, man.
No, I understand completely.
But, hey,
I'm here on a Thursday night, you know, doing my prediction. I usually like to get them out a few weeks, or at least a week by the latest, but I had such a difficult time with this fight, you know, because there's a lot of things that I could see possibly happening here.
Right.
In the outcome, you know, but
man, this is a fight where I can't rule out nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you think about all the possible outcomes of a fight, everything is on the table in this fight. I mean, even, you know, up to a DQ, you know what I'm saying? A draw from, I mean, a technical decision, you know what I'm saying? Just anything. It seems like, you know, with these two guys and how their styles, you know, could potentially clash, it's almost as if there's nothing that you could say, well, we know that won't happen in this fight.
That's right, man. But hey, I appreciate the call. But before I let you go, I want you to plug in your channel so that you know, everybody that's listening here live and anybody on the archive can go ahead and check you out, man.
D-Lo 404 Boxing right here on YouTube. Y'all check me out. I appreciate it, G.
Anytime, brother. I appreciate the call, man. And I think D-Lo is just like a lot of us fans. Like, it's a difficult fight to predict, man, because there's a lot of things that can happen and a lot of variables. Like, again, the ring rust, inactivity, the injuries of Spence. Ugas, will he step up and be a little more aggressive, being that he's fighting in Spence's backyard? You know,
can he beat the judges in Dallas?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing there, man.
Because anything that Spence is going to throw, the crowd's going to go nuts, you know?
Absolutely,
and that
they are.
Sometimes sways the judges to score that round, even if it doesn't land on anything. You know?
I'm seeing a lot of people here in the chat saying they think it's going 12. Fight Doctor here says if it goes 12, the eye holds up. Yeah, I think so too. Unless he just, you know, finds a way to power through. And look, we've seen that before, guys. Big giant eyes. They find a way to dig deep and finish a fight. But it takes, I mean, I'm not going to say Spence is not a special type fighter, but it takes a special type of fighter to fight through a badly swollen eye like that. Because we've seen guys with retina injuries, their eyes, they get swollen. You know, they definitely get swollen pretty good. Fotex says the real fight is Ugas versus the judges. Yeah, a little jokey joke there, but I understand where you're coming from there, man. Shoeshine Boxing is here. He says the odds should shift after the weigh-in a bit. Yeah, I mean, they're already dropping. Fight Doctor here is saying that I guess this might be where it's at now with your bookie. I know we had War Week Joseph come on and say I think he said what was it, a 275 minus
275 now, yeah,
plus 275 Ugas, which is still pretty good odds,
right?
If you want to take Ugas, I've taken a lot of, I've taken plus 400s, 500 sometimes and have hit. And let me tell you, it's nice. It's nice when you hit them, but you got to hit them. That's the thing, you know?
Yeah.
You got to hit them. And when you got that
Yep.
feeling, sometimes you just got to roll with it, man. You know, when you're a Chicano like me with a little panza, you know, you got to go with your gut. Just don't lie. Okay. You know what I'm saying, man?
Right.
But guys, we'll take one more call here. We got another 10 minutes or so. We'll take one more call and we'll wrap this thing up. This has been great. Again, don't forget, smash my like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Don't forget to subscribe to Leave It in the Ring here as well on YouTube. That's where you'll catch my man 97 Rough. Subscribe to him. And yeah, man. So what do you think, man? We got a lot of back and forth here. You're going with Spence. I'm going Ugas.
Right.
We had a couple callers say they don't know. We had one caller go Ugas, one caller go Spence. It's all over the place, man.
It really is, and it really tells you how well matched these two guys are against each other. You know, and you know, I'm just hoping the judges don't, take away, if it is a great night of boxing, they don't take that away from us, and the right guy does get the win. But like I said, that's why I'm staying true to my pick, which is, Spence with a very unconvincing win over Ugas. It's that close. It's really that close between the two. Who decides to take lead? How well the Spence base holds up? Does Ugas shell up when Spence decides to open up a bit? And does he become the aggressor? I don't, there's so many variables about this fight that just makes it a lot of fun, and wish Saturday was here already.
I know. Shoe Shine Boxing says Sugar Ray Leonard, after his eye injury, lost badly and took another 3-year layoff. Yeah, it's not an injury to fuck around with, man.
Right.
That's for sure. Outlaw, what's going on, bro? Haplotype in the house. What's up? Yeah, I think it's really like Spence, like you said, the crowd's gonna be cheering at any little thing he does. We know that. We know that's how it is when you fight in your hometown. It's just a matter of him being able to find or break through those holes in the high guard, because we know the high guard is a good defense to fight behind, but there's holes in it. We see it, and then again, it all depends on how that fighter uses the high guard. We've seen guys like Winky Wright, Joshua Clottey, who have really, really tight high guards that were hard to bust through, but you can bust through them. And volume punching is one of those things that can find holes in guys' high guards. I mean, look, when Winky Wright lost badly, who was it to? Paul Williams, another volume puncher who found holes in that high guard that a lot of guys couldn't. We could see that here. And then again, the counter puncher, he's going to find opportunities as well. So this is such an interesting matchup.
The only thing is that he said like Paul Williams found holes with Winky Wright with that high guard. I don't think he found any holes. I think he won because it was him just throwing punches and Winky just shelled up. Josh Clottey did the same thing when he faced Manny Pacquiao. He shelled up. Ike Corte, when he faced Oscar De La Hoya, shelled up and didn't press on the gas when it was needed. That's how you keep a guy with a high guard from returning shots, where they just become comfortable in the dark behind their gloves. So I mean, very interesting fight. Like I said, it could go either way. Roll the dice, whatever you're gonna hit. It can go, snake eyes or whatever. That's why I do like this fight. Contrasted, they're very similar in styles, but one of them is gonna have to say, I got to do this first. I dare to be great. And who is it going to be? The guy that has the momentum, like you just mentioned earlier, which is Ugas, getting off a one-sided win over a fading, aged Manny Pacquiao, but still had spurts of Pacquiao in those moments in that fight, or Errol Spence, who just came off a win over a Danny one-handed fighter, Garcia. And we saw Danny didn't really answer any of the questions that we wanted to be answered that night. He was content just throwing one shot and never really pressuring, Spence the way Porter pressured him. That's what we need to see. That's what we really, really need to see. And I think that's what Spence people need to see And that's why the fight with Crawford hasn't really been signed on to or immediately kind of been rushed to happen, because I think they still have questions about their fighter and whether or not his face can hold up to a slugfest or to a strong welterweight that's going to land right hands. And speaking about the weigh-ins, I mean, we've seen Errol Spence look drawn out, having trouble making that 147 pound, where Ugas has been making it perfectly fine. He's a true welterweight. So many variables, a lot of them, honestly, I think this is why the Vegas is turning over and handicaps are like, I don't know, man. I like Ugas in this a lot here, is because there's so much stacked up against Spence at the moment. But you can't count him out because he has been known as the truth. And his boxing skills should be enough to get him out of trouble, right?
Yeah, good points you made there, man. We got one more phone call coming in. Let me grab that. All right, we got 956. You're live.
Shut the fuck up, you stupid spout.
Bullshit.
Hey, what fat fuck was he talking about, though? There's two of us.
Yeah. What a moron. Anyway,
hey, man, anybody says that, I'm like, is that really supposed to be hurt my feelings? That just means I live a good life, brother.
Hey, gotta eat, mad because you can't, or what?
I know, man. Shit, Don't get mad at me.
Right.
Don't get mad because your Viaja doesn't feed you.
But I think he made some good points, man. I forgot to bring that up, but when I went back and watched the All Access, Spence did mention that he was having some trouble making weight, and it's been something that's been hurting him for quite some time now, and he hired a nutritionist, which is good. You want that to try to help you make weight more comfortably with your diet and stuff like that. But that's another thing. Ugas stays in the gym. He's a gym rat.
Yeah, he's always flirted with giving the notion that he's going to move up. He was talking about that before the car crash, saying, hey, like he was already bypassing the Crawford fight. Remember that? Like he was showing no interest. He was already talking Canelo, he was talking about 100, 154. So that already tells me that, and his body frame too. And he's a big boy, he's wide at the shoulders. And it's surprising that he's been able to stay there at 147.
Yeah, I agree, man. Jesus M asking you a question, says, where you been, David?
I've been right here, man. I get that all the time. People email me like, where you been? But look, I work, working, bro, and trying to get my, that's it, really, honestly, spending a lot of time with my familia. Every time I say I'm going to do something comes up and I just can't get to it. And, G-Funk called me earlier. He got me at a good time. It was like, hey, I was like, yeah. Matter of fact, my schedule's clearing out today. I could definitely, jump on. But I've been here all the time, bro. I'm here all the time. I watch the fights.
Yeah, man. Shoeshine here says 7-5 Spence or 7-5 Ugas, but Ugas won't get a fair shake on the cards. I mean, it sucks that we have to bring that up, but it's a reality, man, especially in Texas. Fotex, if the eye injury, if Earl's eye gets swollen quick, then we can start ringing the upset alarm. Yeah, it's a possibility, man. It's definitely a possibility, especially with the way Ugas throws his right hand. Very good with that right hand. He doesn't throw it. It's not telegraphed. He knows how to throw it multiple ways. We saw that with Pacquiao. He started throwing it a couple different ways in that fight. So it's going to be, he's going to land it, man. It's just a matter of seeing what happens. Apple Type says, I'm predicting as a win or lose, Ugas is going to put some damage on that eye. I think so too, man. I think so too. He's going to be able to land that right hand. Yep. Outlaw says he's going with Spence. Ugas doesn't punch enough. I mean, that's another thing we have to look at. He's a counterpuncher by nature. So, they look for openings from guys who throw more punches. You know what I'm saying? So Now they're talking about the test. Look, guys, I don't know about the testing or anything like that. I haven't even followed.
What do you mean
any
the
of that.
testing? Like what?
I guess there was some. Victor Conte on Twitter was talking about how there's no testing.
Oh, I saw
for this
that.
fight. Yeah,
there was.
so
There was Keith Idek who covered it, and I even spoke to Keith Idek about it after. I spoke to actually I spoke to the Ugas camp with one of their guys is Mario, and yeah, I mean they have a relationship with Vada, and even Errol Spence. So my understanding is yes, there's been testing, and yes, there is going to be testing. I mean, yeah, they're going to be tested after the fight as well.
yeah, I've kind of decided to not really follow stories like that anymore. It's just become a drag to me. So that's why I'm just sticking to just talking about fights that are actually made, not fights
Right.
that people want to argue about for no reason or blah, blah, blah. I want to talk about fights that are official so I can break them down and come out here and talk with you guys about it. Okay. And maybe we'll have some fun with fights in the past, maybe do a fantasy matchup. One guy from this era, one guy from that era. We'll do something like that. But I don't really want to talk about gossip anymore in the sport of boxing anymore. It's just, there's
so much of it already, you know. It's like,
yeah,
you know, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah,
you know, I've always said, look, fight fans don't care about they bring it up, but they really don't care. Just like they don't care about mob guys being involved in the sport. You know?
Right.
It's chisme in the beginning. Everybody's excited, but then after next week, watch, it'll be a new story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, A97, I want you to go ahead. If you have any final thoughts, if not, plug in your stuff, man, where everybody can find you, and then we'll wrap this one up, man. We'll take it home.
Take it home, huh? Again, man, I still stand with my prediction of what I think is going to happen and who it's going to sway with. I will not be surprised. I know some folks are saying that they think it's going to be a little bit more fireworks than I'm thinking it might end up. But I'm thinking it's going to, if it's a chess match, God, we are going to suffer for it. But when I mean suffer for it, it's meaning you're going to see the Twitterverse have a meltdown because they're going to say, this is why boxing is going down the pie. This is why it's not where it's at. Two guys are playing it too safe, blah, blah, blah. When in reality, this matchup between these styles of fights, they don't mess well because they're too similar. One guy's too hesitant to make a move because they're so used to a guy coming forward. Okay, so one guy's got to get out of character, and that's why I'm not anticipating a chess match a checker match type of fight. I'm anticipating a chess match, which I do like. I like to see the intelligence between two guys make adjustments, minor adjustments to take away a round, to gain that little extra ring generalship, but in terms of pay-per-view, where people that are not aficionados of the sport, they really don't understand the sport, it's not going to be a blowout for them. They're going to feel like they got cheated. I spent $70, $80, whatever I spent. I invited friends to come over who are really not boxing fans, and they're going to be in your ear going, that's why I buy UFC. That's why I buy UFC. This is not a fight I would invite anybody over to sit down and watch that is not an advocate like I am when it comes to the sport of boxing. This is just not one of them. This is one where I sit down, crack open a beer and enjoy what's happening in front of us, which is going to be at a very modern, slow pace.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, this is why I buy UFC. I hear that a lot, but
right.
Hey, look, it's not my fault boxing wants to put every damn fight on pay-per-view. That shouldn't be, but I understand. I've had that a lot. This year, Ugas did look bigger than Spence. Won't be surprised if he wins. I mean, yeah, I won't be surprised either. Hey, look, good fantasy matchup here. Salvador Sanchez versus Oscar Valdez. Yeah, I did one already. I did Alexis
Sanchez.
Arguello. Yeah, I did Arguello versus Marquez. I'll take Sanchez in that one as well. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put out a poll so I can do another one of those fantasy fight matchups. I'll put about maybe 3 or 4 fantasy matchups and let the subscribers vote, and then we'll do one like that. Major Key Boxing, what's going on, man? You guys subscribe to Major Key, good channel here on YouTube. Let's see. Fight Doctor says Ugas by KO is paying plus 950.
Damn.
Wow. If the ice wells up and they stop it, Whoo, depending on where you're at.
Hey, it could happen. It could
Man.
definitely
Lance
happen.
Myers here. What's going on, man? I hope you didn't try to call in, man. I shut the phone line down because we're getting ready to wrap it up, man. But look, guys, here's the thing. After the fight, you know how I do it. Immediately after the fight, the lines will be open. Post-fight call-in show. No matter who wins, I'm coming back. If I'm right, if I'm wrong, I'm coming back to talk boxing with you guys. So I can't wait for the fight. Make sure you guys watch it and enjoy it. All right. This is G Funky Boxing for my man 97 Rough, and we are out.